common motherfucking sense, aka the soul of Andromeda, the night of Venus. If you're an artist, I already gotta tell you this. You already know this. But we all suffer from creative blocks from time to time. Now, some of us have creative blocks way more than others. Some of us deal with them less than others. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, regardless, if you are here and aware right now, if you're an artist in this reality, you better believe you're going to come across a creative block one way or another, sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, you should be hoping it comes sooner rather than later. We're going to get into that. Now, a lot of you who new to this channel, y'all only have such an idea of what it is that I'm here to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to explain so many things, whether it goes down into the spiritual warfare behind the words and the language that we use, or it's going down into the symbolism and the trickery and the magic behind the signs and symbols that we use, even the colors that we wear. Or I might start doing some videos. I will be having some videos on here dealing with your transits, your astrology transits, and how it deals with your creativity, with your manifestation, with your ability to produce art in this world. But regardless of whatever the video might be at the time, all of these videos on this channel, everything that I'm doing here is centered towards the spirituality of creativity. You know what I'm saying? And I see a whole bunch of people jumping into the realm of spirituality, jumping into the realm of mysticism, jumping into the realm of deep occult wisdoms that have been practiced and taught for millennia. But the problem is that with social media, with everything becoming trendy right now, with shit that was once not cool at all, now becoming cool, shit is getting watered down. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the messages are getting lost. A lot of the original teachings are getting conflated. So that's the real reason I'm here. That being said, so much of our spiritual creativity can be better understood and controlled if we just know a little bit more about our makeup, our spiritual makeup, for lack of better words, our spiritual programming. And this is going into the birth chart. This is going into numerology and things like that. But I'm going to keep this all centered for just this video right now. What I want to talk about is Saturn. If you're familiar with astrology, then you go ahead and keep on listening. If you don't know anything about astrology, you might want to shut this video off and go do your own research, okay? Because that's another thing too is, like I said, with so many people getting into this shit and making it trendy, the message gets lost. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I've been on this shit for motherfucking years now. I've been studying this shit since I was 16 years old. You know what I'm saying? At the time of this video, I'm 24 years old. You know what I'm saying? I've been on this shit. Y'all motherfuckers just now getting on this shit last year and shit like that. No, fuck that. I'm gonna give you the real shit. And even beyond that, like I said, man, this shit ain't always what you think it is. It's really not. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. Forgive me, I might do that on these videos. That's just how I express myself. I gotta get all of these points out. But without further ado, oh yeah, that's what I want to say. If you are not already aware of certain astrological meanings and certain things, don't watch my channel, okay? This is not a beginner channel. That was my point of even saying all that shit. I've been on this shit, okay? So I'm not going to come on here right after I just read something and regurgitate it back to you. Fuck that. Anything I'm coming on here saying is coming from shit that I've actually experienced, shit that I've actually seen and witnessed, shit that I actually processed with my own senses, not shit that I just copied from someone else's senses. And that's the main flaw in the spiritual community right now. So, that being said, yeah, these videos are a little bit on the advanced side. It's not too advanced. So if you know a little bit of something, but you ain't too deep into it, you can still, you know what I'm saying, ride the wave. You still listen to these videos, but you have absolutely no idea what a birth chart even is. If you have no idea what your personal planets are, you know what I'm saying, things like that, don't watch these videos. This is a bad start. Okay, this is like 201. You need to go back to 101. All right. Now that disclaimer is out of the way, Saturn. That's what I want to talk about right now. Saturn and its effects on your creative blockages. Now, for those of you who are already aware, Saturn's main role here is to put hardship in front of you. Somewhat like Mars. You know what I'm saying? Both of those planets being malefic planets. The difference, though, is that Mars is more of a taker of things, whereas Saturn is more of a restrictor of things. In your life, you might have something, you already have something in your life, right? But the moment it gets taken away from you, or the moment it gets destroyed, that's a manifestation of Mars. Now, let's say there's something in your life that you want, but you can't get it right now. No matter what you do, it seems like there's something always stopping you from getting it. It seems like it's something always in your way. It seems like there's something always going wrong right when it's time to get that thing. That's Saturn. Now, the way it's going to affect you as an individual is going to affect me completely different, depending on what sign and house your Saturn is in. For example, if you're like me and your Saturn is in the first house, then your personality a lot of times might get restrictions placed on it, or the things that you personally care about rather than the things that you are impersonal towards, the things that you don't care so much about, the things that are not so close to you, right? The things that are personal to you are going to have more restrictions placed on them, right? Let's say, I don't know, it's just a random example. Let's say you want to go out with your friends tonight, right? And let's say we're all voting on where we should go eat. Now, let's say your example of where you want to eat is a very nostalgic, something you've always used to eat at, a place you used to always eat at when you was a child, right? A place where you've built bonds at, a place where you've built relationships at, right? This restaurant is going to have a personal connection with you. Now, let's say the moment you suggest that restaurant, we all disagree. Boom, Saturn is playing right there on a small scale or even bigger scale. Let's say we all agree to go to that personal restaurant of yours. But on our way there, we get met with a whole bunch of traffic. So much traffic that now we actually have to go to a different restaurant and say, fuck that idea. That's another example of Saturn manifesting itself into reality. Okay? That's in the first house, a personal experience. Let's say you have Saturn in the ninth house, your house of education. Well, you might experience many things that comes to restrictions from you learning certain things. You might have a learning disability. You might not. You might have a reading disability. It might be hard for you to read certain things. It might be the complete opposite, right? you might actually be someone who is able to get into certain positions at school, or you're able to get better grades at school better than someone else, faster than someone else. But the problem is that with that, though, you might start to create a false sense of reality where, because this thing came so easily to you, you think that's the way it is for everyone, or you think it's always going to be like that. And that's a dark side of Saturn that a lot of people don't talk about, where Saturn might actually give you access to these things, and you might actually be able to build something with these things, but little do you know, you're actually creating a false sense of reality. That's honestly a whole different conversation about Saturn. That's a little secret. But back to the topic, right? Saturn in the ninth house. If you got maybe some oppositions or squares to Saturn, I know a lot of people say that those aspects are negative aspects. But if you know anything about math, a negative and a negative makes a positive. Okay? So if you have a negative planet, a malefic planet like Saturn, doing a negative aspect to a planet like an opposition, it's actually positive. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you actually get the ability to build a reality. That's where you get the ability to create a status. You know what I'm saying? Because Saturn also is the ruler of Capricorn. Capricorn being the sign of status. And whenever you're able to positively use that charge of Saturn, you can do exactly that. Create a status for yourself. Create a new way the world can look at you, where you can create a foundation. You can create a business of sorts. You see what I'm trying to say? But again, like I said, in that example, someone who goes too deep into that, they will get lost into that reality instead of the overall reality. And that's another form of blockage. You know what I'm saying? That's the, I know I said I was going to save this for a later video, and I am, but just to clear it up, right? That's another form of blockage where you get so deep into something and you see it working out for you that you don't want to leave that area. You know what I'm saying? It's like you get into a position, you get into this status, and it suits you. It goes with your ego so well. It makes you feel so good that you don't never want to leave that status. That's a blockage. That's stopping you from greater potentials. And if you know anything of the mythology of Saturn, the mythology of Kronos, that's exactly what this is explaining. It's explaining the trap of status. That's the fucking biggest secret I can give you in this video alone. It has nothing to do with anything else I was gonna say. That's whoo shit. I just went in right there. That's the fucking secret. The status that you are so desperately clinging to. The status that you are so obsessed with obtaining. That status is secretly a jail cell. That status is secretly a prison. That status is hell. So, with that little gem being spread right there, know that the more you are looking at the status, the more you are clinging to putting yourself into damnation. Okay, I know this might be too deep for some, but that's just what it is. If you know what Saturn is, you already know how that shit works. You know why Saturn is correlated to Satan. You know why the Capricorn card is related to the devil in tarot. I'm not trying to spook out none of the Capricorns neither. That's not saying that you're evil or demonic or none of that shit. Get that shit out your head too. Because this ain't got nothing to do with religion. This is not even looking at these things as real entities like religion would tell you. Again, this is an advanced channel though, so if you already know, you know. Back to my point though, right? So all of those deal with Saturn. Those are all the many many examples of the manifestation of Saturn, right? Now, when we start talking about your creativity, when we start talking about your art, Saturn can affect you in just the same way, where you're striving for a certain status and really you're just striving to put yourself into a smaller hole. Or it can be in the sense that it might just pop up in random situations of your life that it blocks you from moving forward. And as I started the video out, you actually want that to happen sooner rather than later. And here's why. A lot of people call Saturn the malefic. A lot of people call Saturn uh, evil or whatever the case may be. That's not true at all. Okay? Now, I already told you, I got Saturn in the first house, the house of personality. And I got Saturn conjuncting the moon in the first house. So if there's anyone who's going to understand Saturn, it's me. And I'm telling you, Saturn is not your enemy. Actually, if anything, Saturn is your friend. He's just a hard motherfucker. Okay? Saturn is that friend that competes with you in all aspects. Not for the sake of ego, like it may seem, with status and things like that. No, Saturn is actually competing with you for your own benefit. Saturn is teaching you a thing about discipline. Saturn is teaching you a thing about strength, consistency, being able to stick at something, regardless of how many trials and tribulations may come from it. Being able to go deep into your passions, regardless of how long it may take, regardless of how painful the experience may be, regardless of whether or not you get any financial gain, you get any status from this. That is what Saturn is here to teach you. Saturn is here to make you hard. Okay? If you've seen my videos on No Nut November and semen retention, that's all that shit is about, on how to make yourself hard. Doing shit that deals with discipline. AKA, doing things that's hard is what makes you hard. Doing things in the sense that you have nothing coming to you in return. But you continue to do it anyway because you know that eventually, in due time, you will get that benefit. You will reap what you sow. That's hard to do. It's hard to go to work and not get paid for it. It's hard to dive into your passions and not see anything come from it and still have the same amount of enthusiasm and encouragement to go for that passion. That's hard to fucking do. Okay? And this is where the artists really need to tap in right now. Okay? Because that's what Saturn is here to teach you. Whenever you go through those creative blockages, whenever Saturn is manifesting itself into your reality, don't run. Don't be like, oh, woe is me. Don't cry and feel bad for yourself. Understand what the lesson is. Okay? And I'm not saying that you're always going to understand right away. Hell, you might not understand for years after the lesson has come and gone. But the point is, you won't even get to that point of understanding if you run from the lesson in the first place. You have to stay there. You have to stay stationary. You have to stay grounded in that position. All right, back to what I was saying. I thought I was hearing shit, my bad. But yeah. Listen, Saturn is here to help you. Okay? My bad if I left off and I'm continuing somewhere else. But yeah, listen, Saturn is here to help you. And is going to present itself in your chart, or no, I'm sorry, it's going to present itself in your life depending on your chart and the transits that's happening right now. Okay. As well as what it is you're actually doing. You know, if the type of art that you are doing is centered around words, Saturn is going to present itself in the form of writer's block. That is a manifestation of Saturn. Okay. Now, there's many ways to get through it. There's many cheat codes to get around it. But you want to be aware of using cheat codes, because when you use cheat codes, you don't get the same rewards. You don't get the same achievements from it. And you already know this if you're a gamer. You know what I'm saying? The moment you use cheat codes, you cut yourself off from certain other, resources. And, that's the best way I can put it. The moment you use cheat codes, you cut yourself off from other resources that might have been more useful had you have not used that cheat code in the first place. So when you are going through creative blocks, you don't always want to use a cheat code to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? That goes into also trying to run away from it again. Just stand there, stay grounded in that blockage. I know that's kind of contrary to so much of the information that's put out there when it comes to escaping writer's block. But actually stay there. See what is happening in that moment. You know what I'm saying? If you are trying to write a book and you're trying to write the next scene, but you stop and you can't, you have writer's block, stay in that moment. There's something there that Saturn is trying to reveal to you. In other words, spend more time there, okay? A lot of people also don't understand that Saturn represents time, okay? Saturn represents time. A lot of people don't, that's what I was going to say, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place right now. A lot of people don't know that time in this dimension comes from Saturn. Not the sun, not even the moon. It's Saturn. That is why Saturn represents time. That is why Saturn represents the number 8. That is why when you turn the number 8 sideways, it is infinity, aka all of time. That's a whole nother video. Knowing that Saturn represents time, whenever you come across a creative blockage, spend more time in that thing. Spend more time writing if you have a writer's block. Even if you can't write, fuck it. Just write about anything. Write about whatever it is you just write about in another way. Write it in a different scene. Write the same scene that you just wrote. You know what I'm saying? Write it a completely different way. You know what I'm saying? Just spend more time in that scene that is not allowing you to get to the next scene. If you get what I'm trying to say. If you have if you're a photographer, right? You're just taking a scene of pictures. Now you don't know what to do next. Spend time with those pictures that you just took. Spend time. Look at those pictures. See what's there. See what Saturn is trying to tell you. Spend time in what you've just had before you can get to the next level. I hope this is making sense. Another thing to understand about the creative blockages that Saturn brings to you, I said it was about discipline, right? So if we understand that Saturn is bringing us discipline, whenever we come across a creative block, put more disciplinary actions there. For example, let's say you're writing a book, right? And now you have writer's block. You don't know what the next scene is, using the same example. Okay, let's go back into the disciplines of creating a book. What are the disciplines? Well, the narrative, being the main discipline. The narrative is all it is. You need a conflict. You need a resolution. You need a climax. You need a fall in action. You need all of these. You need foreshadowing events. All of these other things. All of these disciplines that create the overall narrative. Go back to that. Okay, I have writer's block. Let's see, where do I have writer's block? Is it in the conclusion? Is it in the beginning? Is it in the falling, rising action? Like, where is, if it is in that, what comes after this? Going back to discipline, going back to order, going back to the sequence of things, right? We already know that once there is, I don't know, a climax, right? Once we know that there's a climax, then there has to be a falling action, or whatever the case may be, or whenever there's a rising action. Let's go that way, yeah. Whenever there's a rising action, there needs to be a climax, right? Okay, so if you're in writer's block during the rising action, go back to the discipline of making a book. You know that the climax is coming one way or another. You might not know how to make it, but you know that's what's coming. That can help get you out of that writer's block right there. I hope this is making sense. I know I'm tripping over my words right now, and that's another form of Saturn. You know what I'm saying? You might be a speaker. You might be someone who is able to communicate or bring your imagination into this reality using your words. You might be a motivational speaker, or whatever the case may be. You might be an influencer. But Saturn might present itself in ways where today you might not feel like making a video. Today you might not feel like walking on stage. Or even if you do or don't, you make that video, you get on stage and you start tripping over your words, whatever the case may be. You start not being able to properly express yourself and communicate yourself. Boom, Saturn manifesting itself yet again. Now, what do? You can either shut that video off and stop and just start tomorrow. You know, you can just walk off stage, apologize, be like, I'm sorry, guys. This is not my best. I'll just come back later, or whatever the case may be. You can fold like a cheap fucking chair. That's one option. But like I said, me being someone who always had Saturn on my side. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't run away from Saturn even if I motherfucking wanted to. Saturn is in my first house, right next to my moon. You know what I'm saying? I can't do shit but to relate to Saturn. I can't do shit but to emotionally connect to Saturn. I have no choice. So I'll never run. You know what I'm saying? I sit here tripping over these words, and you see me stopping this video? Hell, motherfucking no. I'm going to keep fucking going. I'm going to stay in this shit. Stick to my disciplines. You know what I'm trying to say? Because that's all Saturn wants to see in the first place. Saturn wants to see you stand 10 toes down. Stay down till you come up. That's what Saturn wants to see. Saturn wants to see you put hard work into something. Not give up. Saturn wants to see persistence. Saturn wants to see consistency. That's all that matters to Saturn. That's it. Because that's, when you think about it, like I said, Saturn represents time. Anything that is persistent, anything that is consistent is also dealing with time. Continuously putting time into something, regardless of the influences that's happening externally. That's what Saturn wants to see. So as I sit here fucking up on my words, whatever the case may be, I'm still going to make this video and I'm still going to put it out. Matter of fact, let me get personal real fast. Okay? I've been not trying. I'm not even going to use those words because I wasn't trying. I've been thinking about hopping on YouTube and making these videos and stuff like that for the past 1.5 years now. Almost 2 years at the time of this video. Two years. Now, what was stopping me? Saturn being in my first house, aka my house of personality, my house of self. Me having the idea, the imagination, the inspiration to put more of my personality out there, I always had some blockage to stop that. Now, a lot of the times that came from myself. Again, Saturn being in the first house, the house of self. My creative blockages come from me and me only. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there might be outside influences or whatever, but me being an Aries Taurus, I'm an unstoppable force. I can go through shit that stops most people. I go ram straight through that shit head first. You know, with that ram and bull. But the one thing that gets in my way, the one thing that will stop me, is my motherfucking self. That's Saturn in the first house. Now, what was stopping me from making these videos? My emotions to my ego. I don't want to get on here and look weird. I don't want to get on here and misrepresent myself and say something wrong. Me being an Aries, me having Mercury in the 12th house, I have a propensity to do that. There's oftentimes I do say things that wasn't actually what I see in my head. Because what I see in my head is so broad and expansive that sometimes I don't even have the words for it. So the words that I do use sometimes aren't the right words. And that leads me to misrepresent myself. That leads me to, burn bridges that didn't need to be burned and things like that. Me knowing this about myself, that also stopped me from making these videos. Because I don't want to burn more bridges. That's not my intention. That's not my goals for making these videos. That's Saturn playing a part. Me stopping myself. Me damn near being too smart for my own good. The first house also being ego. Saturn being there. The planet of restrictions, the planet of boundaries, the planet of limitations. That plays a role too in me not making these videos. Because my ego, in one way, shape, or form, is always going to have some type of boundary, some type of limitation on it. But that's cool. I ain't tripping about that. As an Aries sun, with my sun sign being exalted, my ego cool. I got enough ego to cut off. You know what I'm saying? So Saturn being in my first house is actually cool for me. I'm just explaining why it took me so long to get to this point in the first place. You see what I'm saying? It was the Saturn. It was the Saturn playing a role. But now I'm like, fuck it. Now I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I got to do, regardless of how it might be perceived, regardless of how people might look at me, regardless of the mistakes I might make on camera. Because at the end of the day, like I said, that's what Saturn wants to see. Saturn wants to see you go through hard shit. Saturn wants to see you do hard things. Saturn wants to see you go after your passions, regardless of how hard it may be. Yeah, man, that's a little personal insight. So knowing that, right? Now I have no choice but to just spend more time putting my personality out there. I have no choice but to spend more time exposing my true emotions, aka my moon being right next to Saturn. I have no choice but to create a foundation, create a reality off of these things. And so that's why I'm doing these videos. I got a karmic debt to Saturn. I made a deal with Saturn. That's a different video. I was going on a tangent, finishing my L. Yeah, back to what I'm saying though, right? Saturn is where your creative blocks come from. Saturn is where the things that's holding you back come from. Look at your Saturn in your birth chart. Look at your Saturn in your transits. And that will help you understand why you feel held back right now. Okay? And understand that this is only to help you. This is only to get you to the next stage. Now, I'm going to do another video explaining, more of the intricacies of Saturn and how to best use your Saturn and not look at it as such a spooky thing. But yeah,